I'm Riley. I've been living and working in Europe for about a year now, and honestly, the change has been good for me. I've met new people, had new experiences, and found a fresh start. Back home, I left behind my parents and my younger sister, Hannah. We were never very close. Hannah is 8 years younger than me, so we were always in different stages of life. When I was a teenager dealing with school drama, she was still playing with dolls. By the time she became a teen, I was already working. Our paths barely crossed, except during holidays and family dinners. Nowadays, we only message each other on birthdays and Christmas. Before I moved abroad, I had my own place, an apartment that used to belong to my grandmother. After finishing college and getting a good job in finance, I decided to buy it from my parents. They offered it to me for $279,990, and I agreed. It was a great place, full of memories with my grandma, from watering her plants to eating her chocolate chip cookies. I lived there for 5 years, then got the chance to move to Europe for a better job. I didn't sell the apartment. I kept it as my first real investment. I figured I could rent it out or move back in someday. One day, while I was checking emails in my Brussels apartment, my phone lit up with Hannah's name. That was surprising. We hadn't had a real talk in years. I answered. T. Riley. Hi, she said, sounding cheerful and chatty. She asked how I was, about work, and whether I was dating anyone. It felt like she thought we were super close. Then she dropped the bomb. I just started college. Did Mom and Dad tell you? Anyway, I spoke to them, and they said I can stay in your apartment. It's just 4 blocks from campus, so I won't need to spend money on transport or rent. Isn't that great? I froze. She spoke so casually, like it was already decided. I tried to stay calm. Hannah, wait a second, I said. You can't just move in. You should have asked me, not Mom and Dad. She seemed confused.
Why?
They said it's okay. Because it's not their apartment anymore. It's mine. I bought it from them, I said, trying to stay composed. She laughed a little. Come on, Riley. You make good money. If you ever come back, you can just rent another place. I was stunned. The idea that I should rent a new apartment so she could live for free in the one I bought felt unbelievable. No, I said firmly. This isn't happening. She tried to argue, but I ended the call. Later that day, my mom called. Her tone said it all. I was in trouble. We need to talk about what happened with Hannah, she said. You're being unreasonable. She's your sister. It's just for a few years while she's in school. I tried to explain that I didn't want to fight my sister to get my apartment back someday. Why can't you and Dad help her rent another place? I asked. We spent all our money on her tuition, Mom replied. And now you want me to give up my apartment? I said. I'm renting it out right now. If she moves in, I lose that income and have to pay the bills. There was silence. Then I added, unless you and Dad are planning to pay me rent? Mom's voice turned cold. I can't believe how selfish you're being. That was too much. Selfish? I paid you $279,990 for that apartment. I didn't get it for free. She hung up. The next few days were quiet. No calls, no messages. Then my phone rang again. It was Aunt Sadie, my mom's sister. We weren't close, but she was always the level-headed one. I just spoke to your mom. She didn't sound like herself, Aunt Sadie said. I told her everything, Hannah's call, the fight with Mom. She listened patiently. You should try talking to Hannah again, she said. Face to face. Maybe there's a misunderstanding. I didn't think there was much to misunderstand, but something in Aunt Sadie's voice made me give it a try. That evening, I video called Hannah. She picked up right away. She looked tired. Can we talk? I asked. She nodded. Why are you so set on living in that apartment? I asked. Why not rent somewhere else? Hannah's face changed. Because Mom and Dad said it's their apartment and I could live there just like you did. I stared at her. Their apartment? She nodded. They inherited it from Grandma. They said you stayed there for years. Now it's my turn. Without saying a word, I pulled up my files on the laptop and shared my screen. This is not Mom and Dad's apartment, I said. I bought it. Look, here's the deed and the payment record. I paid $279,990 for it. Hannah went silent. She looked shocked as she read the documents. But they said, she whispered. Why would they lie about that? I didn't have an answer for her. I just sat there, watching as the truth hit her. Hannah's face appeared on my screen as she looked over the documents I'd sent. She looked pale, confused, and somehow younger than she had just moments ago. I felt a sudden wave of sympathy for my sister. Well, I said, trying to lighten the mood, at least the money went to a good cause. Mom told me they used it to pay for your college. Hannah's head shot up. What? The money from the apartment sale? I nodded. Yeah, Mom said they used it for your education. Hannah let out a strange sound. Half laugh, half sob. Riley, I'm on a full scholarship. Mom and Dad haven't paid a single cent for my tuition. I stared at her, stunned. But Mom just told me last week they couldn't help with my rent because they spent everything on your college. We sat in shocked silence, trying to process what we'd just uncovered. Then Hannah spoke, her voice a little shaky. Do you remember when I wanted to take those dance classes in middle school? Mom said we couldn't afford it because they just bought you a new laptop for college. What? I shook my head. I never got a laptop from them. I bought it myself with my summer job money. Hannah leaned closer to the camera. And that summer camp I wanted to go to, the one all my friends attended? Mom said they couldn't pay for it because they just covered your college application fees. I applied for fee waivers, I said slowly. I handled all that myself. They told me they couldn't help because they were paying for your new school uniforms. School uniforms? Hannah blinked. My school didn't even have uniforms. We spent the next hour comparing memories. A pattern started to emerge. Whenever either of us had asked for something, our parents had said they couldn't afford it because they were spending money on the other. But none of it was true. It was like putting together a puzzle, only to realize the picture on the box was a lie. The next morning, I called Aunt Sadie. My head was spinning from everything Hannah and I had uncovered. I needed someone else's perspective. Aunt Sadie, I said the moment she picked up, I talked to Hannah last night. We found out something really messed up. Mom and Dad have been lying to us for years. They told Hannah the apartment was still theirs when they had sold it to me. They told me they spent that money on her college, but she's on a scholarship. None of it makes sense. Aunt Sadie took a deep breath. When she finally spoke, her voice was heavy and slow. Riley, sweetheart, sit down. There's something I should have told you a long time ago. I didn't want to cause trouble in the family, but it's time you knew the truth about your parents. I sat down on the couch, clutching the phone. I could hear the weight in her silence before she finally continued. Your parents weren't who you thought they were. They weren't struggling financially like they always said. Your grandmother gave them money, every month, a lot of it. That money was meant for you and Hannah. I felt my grip on the phone tighten. What do you mean, meant for us? She wanted to make sure her granddaughters were well cared for, Aunt Sadie explained. But your parents used that money for themselves. They gave you the bare minimum, cheap groceries, basic supplies, while they... She hesitated. While they what? I asked, though part of me didn't want to hear the answer. While they lived like royalty behind everyone's back, she finally said. They went to fancy restaurants, shopped at luxury stores, and those business trips they always took? They were vacations. Expensive ones. Cruises, F7, star resorts. All while you and Hannah stayed with your grandmother. Memories rushed back, seeing Mom and Dad pack their matching suitcases, their cheerful goodbyes, their glowing tans when they returned. It all made horrible sense now. How did you find out? I managed to ask. Aunt Sadie sighed. By accident. I ran into your mom at a high-end restaurant one day. She was supposed to be away on business. She was dressed head to toe in designer stuff I'd never seen before. When I asked her about it, she got angry. She threatened me. Said if I told your grandmother, she'd turn her against me. She knew exactly how to twist things. She said she'd make sure I was cut out of the will completely. You kept this secret all this time? Yes, she whispered. And I've regretted it every day since. I couldn't hide the frustration in my voice. The argument had been intense, emotions raw and sharp. My Aunt Sadie's voice trembled as she admitted, "Your mother and I didn't speak for years after that." And yes, I stayed silent. I'm ashamed of it now, Riley. I should have said something. I should have acted. But I was scared, and I'm so sorry. You and Hannah deserved better. You deserved to know the truth. I sat there, completely stunned. My mind was racing, her words echoing in my head. Everything I thought I knew about our childhood started to crumble. All those years of tight budgets, careful spending, and watching every cent, it had all been a lie. My parents hadn't been struggling. They were just spending on themselves. "I can't believe this," I whispered, the words barely escaping my lips. We had lived so modestly. Mom would sit for hours clipping coupons from newspapers, saying we had to be careful. We never went on a single vacation, not one. All our clothes came from clearance racks or secondhand stores. Even our groceries were bargain bin selections. I let out a bitter laugh as the memories flooded back. "She used to drive across town just to save a few dollars on food," I said, starting to pace the room, too overwhelmed to stay still. "And the worst part? They made us feel guilty just for wanting normal things. School trips, new clothes, things other kids had. We were told we were selfish for asking, that we were being materialistic." "Riley," Sadie tried to interrupt, but I couldn't stop. "And college," I went on, my voice shaking with anger. "They always said they couldn't afford to help. From the time I was a kid, they made it clear if I wanted to go to college, I had to earn scholarships. There was no money. So I pushed myself to the limit, terrified of getting anything less than perfect grades. I thought my future depended on it. Hannah did too. We both worked so hard." Sadie's eyes filled with guilt. "Your grandmother left specific instructions in her will," she said softly. "She gave your mother extra money, quite a lot. It was meant for your college education. That was a condition of the inheritance. She wanted both you and Hannah to have a good start in life." My phone almost slipped from my hand. "What?" "She made sure the money was there," Sadie continued. "She wanted you both to go to college without that stress. But your parents, they kept it. Just like they kept the monthly allowance your grandmother gave them to help raise you." The weight of it all was crushing. My entire life, I believed we were poor. That we had no other choice. That every sacrifice was necessary. But it was all false. They had the means. They just chose not to use it for us. The next morning, I took emergency leave from work. I didn't even need to explain. My boss must have heard something in my voice because the request was approved right away. Within 5 days, I was on a flight home. Hannah picked me up from the airport, and we talked nonstop during the drive to her dorm. "I can't believe they did this to us," she kept saying, gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. "All those years, and we thought we were the ones being selfish." That afternoon, we went to our parents' house. Everything looked exactly the same. The pristine lawn, the expensive car parked in the driveway, the one they said was a business necessity. How many lies had we believed? Mom answered the door, smiling, until she saw us both. "Girls, what's going on?" "We need to talk," I said firmly, brushing past her. "Where's Dad?" "In his study," she replied, confused and trailing behind us. We found Dad at his desk, casually reading on his tablet. He looked up, surprised. "Well, this is unexpected." "We know everything," I said, skipping the pleasantries. "About the money Grandma gave you. Every month. And the money she left in her will for our college tuition. All of it." The room seemed to go cold. Mom's face went blank. Dad slowly set down his tablet. Hannah spoke next, voice quivering. "Aunt Sadie told us about how you spent that money on yourselves, on vacations, on restaurants, while we were buying groceries with coupons and wearing clothes from discount bins." I braced for denial, for shouting. But instead, my mother smoothed her expensive blouse and said calmly, "I don't see what there is to discuss. We did nothing wrong. You had food, clothes, a roof over your head. No one can say we were abusive." My voice rose in disbelief. "Nothing wrong? That money was for us. And you spent it all on yourselves. We lived the lifestyle we deserved, Dad said coolly. It was our money. We spent it how we saw fit. Your money? Hannah choked. It was Grandma's money. She gave it to you for us. What's done is done, Mom said, waving her hand. You can't prove anything. The money's gone. Their indifference was a punch to the gut. They didn't even deny it. They just didn't care. You're right, I said after a long silence. The money's gone. But so is our relationship. Hannah and I walked out of that house and never looked back. That was 8 months ago. Things have changed since then, changed for the better. Hannah and I talk all the time now. I helped her get an apartment near her campus, and I cover the rent. It's the least I can do after everything. She found a part-time job at a shop, determined to pay her own way beyond that. She's strong, and I'm so proud of her. Last week, we had dinner together at her place. We talked for hours, really talked. We shared stories, laughed about little things, made plans for the future. As I watched her across the table, I realized something unexpected. Our parents may have taken what should have been ours, but in doing so, they gave us something they never intended, each other. In trying to divide us with their lies, they ended up giving us a bond stronger than anything money could buy. And that, in the end, is something truly priceless.